Welcome to One Click Factory Central Eastern Europe partner gathering roundtable discussion that we are organizing monthly. You might be wondering why One Click Factory is putting that investment to bring partners together and to present and discuss on different hot topics on the market. And here's why. After Microsoft announced One Click Factory as cloud licenses distributor, CSP distributor for Central Eastern Europe, we decided that we want to send a clear message for partners. We are not here to sell licenses. We are here to help all partners bring more and more customers to cloud and to help community grow and overall increase cloud market share on the market. And if you are a Microsoft partner or you are entering Microsoft space or would like to enter Microsoft space, I would highly encourage contact One Click Factory and join One Click Factory CSP acceleration program that we built for partners just like you. Regardless on what stage you are in, we are ready to support and guide you through the steps. And as always, we will have a very interesting panelist on board. We always like to look at the solution from various angles, that is to hear Microsoft story, partner story, and One Click Factory, who is kind of in between because we are working with partners only story. Today, we are going to focus on the topic of security in cloud. You know, funny enough, pandemic had moved the majority to customers one way or another to cloud already. But is the topic of security still relevant, or maybe it's not relevant yet? We will see. As always, I encourage you to be active. Please share your thoughts, ask questions. If you have specific question that you need an answer from panelists, from experts too, I would invite you to use questions and answers button that you see on your right. And if you in general would like to share your view or to comment or to agree with panelists, to disagree with panelists, use the public chat button that you see also in your right. We promise all the questions that you ask will be answered, whether during the discussion or afterwards. And now, before we move on and dive deep to the topic, and before I introduce the panelists to you, I am inviting you to have a quick poll simply to understand where you as organization are at the moment. So is your own ERP solution software running on cloud already? So now let's do that quick poll to figure out, and you see the four answers. No, our ERP yes, our ERP is running in cloud. No, we don't have data. We don't think data is secure in cloud. Then no, but the reasons are not related to security. And no, but we are planning to move to cloud soon. And let's see what the answers are. Let's do this quick run and see what we have here. Okay, then the results are changing. But I see that quite a number of solutions are running in cloud already. So based on the existing stat that I see at the moment, it's changing. It's like 40% organizations are having their ERP in cloud already, which is good. This means that you can be the ambassadors for the customers already. I'm surprised that I was hoping for a less number than this. So you are on the good track already, because once you are yourself trusting your data is safe in ERP, it's much easier to convince your customers. It is a safe way to go there too. And with this, let us turn our attention and introduce the panelists. So first, Andras Michalitov, who is working as a Central Marketing Office Lead at Microsoft. Andras, I'm very happy to have you on board. And while sending invitations and inviting everyone to join the panel, I promised you they are going to hear the findings of very interesting survey Microsoft has conducted, especially for Central Eastern Europe market. What is that we are trying to accomplish and figure out by ordering such a survey?
Hello, Inga, and thank you for the opportunity to having me on the call and sharing the results that we have found in the survey. So we as Microsoft, we wanted to understand what our customers and what customers on the market do think about cloud security in the commercial segment. Are they prepared? What the challenges are? What the plans are for the future regarding of IT security for the next 18 months? And also, do they trust Microsoft as a security provider? And how do customers think about when they think about trust? Do they trust more on the on-premise solutions or the hosters, regional data centers, and or the cloud providers? So we have quite a few good insights, and I'm really happy to share in the coming minutes.
Yes, and we will go to dive deep, and then we will upload the presentation that you shared. So just keep tuned. We are going to dive deep more. The second panelist is Milan Manchev, who is representing a partner story, intelligence systems, a group of coming from, they are operating in quite many countries. And I'm very happy to have Milan on board because they, as partner, have moved quite a number of customers' ERP to cloud already. Milan, what did it take for you to assure that your solutions that you develop are safe in cloud? And what did it take for you to convince, especially Central Eastern Europe customers, that it is a safe way to go to cloud?
Well, thanks, Inga, for having me on the call. Maybe a couple of words about intelligence systems first. We are a multinational company based in Bulgaria. We operate in Turkey, in Romania, Belgium, and Albania. Around 200 people are working for intelligence systems. We specialize in dynamics for the last 16 years, actually. We are also ISV. We have actually more than a couple of solutions that we develop for automotive retail, for dealers, for instance, for construction companies, for companies selling goods and type of retails, if you want, and also companies that are operating as a transport and logistic providers. So that's a very brief about us. We have around 490 customers in more than 55 countries. So that's in short for intelligence system. So as our experience with the cloud is the following. So actually, I think our first customers in the cloud came from Western Europe. And this is partly because, as you know, some of the products that Microsoft sells were actually available for Western European customers before coming here to Central East Europe. So it was a bit more difficult in the beginning because customers were not so mature, and we also didn't have the experience. But over the couple of years, actually, we understood what we need to do. We had to train our people. We had to understand the cloud better. We had to go through certain certification programs. So, but finally, we had all the what we needed actually to convince the customer that cloud is actually secure, because the customers, they do not ask questions so much when we talk about email, for instance, or chat, whether it's really secure. But in terms of ERP, especially when you have your accounting data, financials, everything in the cloud, then they become a bit more cautious. So it was interesting experience. What I can share is that Central European customers are a bit, I would say, a bit behind than Western European customers. I think the level of maturity is a bit lower. So some of the questions that we are getting from Central European customers we do not get from Western European customers, for instance. So something that they know for quite some time.
It's interesting that you have both views, that you have experience of working with Western Europe countries and Central Eastern Europe countries. So it would be interesting to compare of what are these questions and what are Central Eastern Europe customers afraid of in reality. But we will have that discussion later on. I will ask that question for sure. And lastly, I would like to introduce Marius Sibulskis, who is Information Security Manager for Cloud at OneClick Factory. For those who might not know, OneClick Factory has its own hosting NAV Business Central on Azure platform developed for partners. And at the moment, we have more than 1,300 customers deployed by partners on the platform. Meaning security is one of the serious topics at OneClick Factory that we pay extremely big attention to. And Marius, you are managing and assuring everything flies well. What is the key message that you would like partners to have after they leave this session, where we would be explicitly focusing on security and how data is secure in cloud?
Thank you, Inga. I'm really happy to join this discussion because it shows that there are customers, there are partners who really care about security, and this is very important for me. So based on my conversations with partners today, we see there is one big misconception about the cloud. Customers tend to think that if they move their business to cloud, no longer will they need to worry about anything, as everything will be managed by cloud provider or by the partner. And it is not totally true. There are things that the partners and even end customers should take care of. And those things also differ depending on the cloud model, first of all, because we have infrastructure as a service, we have platform as a service, we have software as a service with different levels of security. And on the provider as well, especially in more sophisticated solutions. For example, OneClick Factory self-provisioning involves even 4 parties in the service. From my experience in cybersecurity, I can claim that in most cases, especially when we talk about small and mid-sized businesses, cloud is safer than on-prem solutions because it's really difficult to build a data center which would be on the same security level as, for example, Microsoft data centers. And the same is with the security personnel. So going to cloud, the customer will have to agree to a certain level of trust. But if this trust is properly substantiated, for example, with the security certifications, then probably it will help to break unreasonable fears. So I would say it is important, first of all, to understand all the parties involved in the service, and then to understand each of those parties' responsibilities for the information security.
And it's interesting that the US experts are claiming that cloud is safer, whereas now we are going to dive into the statistics analysis of what do customers think. And in reality, the data is interesting. Andras, now let's dive deep into the Central Eastern Europe situation, and let's have a look of what was the findings that Microsoft learned after talking with more than 1,500 mid-sized customers, right, across Central Eastern Europe. And my colleague has already uploaded the presentation. Andras, can you comment on the data? Because this very much goes in alignment of what Marius has shared. He thinks that cloud is more secure. And then what are actual numbers, others' perceptions say?
Mm-hmm. Okay. So the first, the survey was quite intensive, lots of many questions. And for this session, I have really picked 4 or something like that, 4 key insights that are maybe the most relevant to discuss in a few minutes. The survey will be public. We are just working on to finalize the content, and we will create announcements and also an ebook that will be available also for the partners to share with their customers. So one of the insights I would like to highlight, we asked the question, okay, so what percent of our customers have a security strategy? And almost half of them, 42%, said that they have a full security strategy. We might challenge it if it's really the case. What do we mean by full security strategy? But a part of them, almost half of them, said that they have a security strategy. The opportunity definitely for us and for the partners is clearly the other, like 48%, who said that, okay, they have a partially created security strategy, or they don't have anything about security, but they would like to have something. So that's the half. So that's obviously a good opportunity for the partners in the SMB segment and also in the managed segment to discuss why a security strategy can build up business value. So that was one of the key findings. The other one, yeah.
Should we please tell us when should we switch the slides?
Okay, just before moving to the next slide. So that was on the left. So there is a space that we can influence our customers on cloud security. So that's a good point. The other one was we have done it in quite a few countries. You can see it on the slide, and there was something that's really interesting. That's especially true for Greece. While all up, we can see that the average is 42% who have a full security strategy. In Greece, it's up to 33%. So it's really interesting to see that, okay, so what is happening in Greece? Why do Greek companies have 2/3 of them have a security strategy? And I think we should change the slide now. And okay, it's not on this one. So we can go back.
Andras, we will have a handout. So the ones who would like to see the full deck of what Andras has prepared can download the full deck at the moment. So maybe I have missed to include that into the 2 slides that we prepared just for the slideshow presentation.
Okay. That's perfect. So we can go back to the previous one, and just to go close, the second point of the survey I would like to highlight is so Greece. The most companies, 2/3 of the Greek companies, has already a security strategy. The other finding was that also in Greece, 67% of the companies tend to spend more on IT security, so they have a growing budget for IT security than the rest of the countries. All up CE, it's like 38-39% who are spending more and more on IT security, which is a good sign. But in Greece, it's already 67 again. So and these 2 numbers might to tell us that those customers who do see the business value of security, they tend to create an IT strategy on security. And once they have the IT strategy, then we are willing to invest more money into executing, into realizing that security mission. So I would say that's a very important theme that we have discovered. First, we need to convince the customer about the business value of security, then have partners to support the customer to create the strategy, and then more money the customer will lend to implement those security solutions.
And probably it's a good point to educate customers, right? For partners, education is one of the key sales elements now. So probably partners should take that finding and use that as learning and educating their customers to increase their budgets and to land IT strategies in place, right? Is that a correct message?
It is. Definitely, it is. Partners have a key role in landing those messages with the customers. It's also that the question is, who decides at the customer about IT security? And 70-something% is IT traditionally. BDMs has like 25% share. So it's still only 1/4 of our customers where BDM is involved in the security in this discussion, and probably this is not good enough. Yeah, especially when we are talking about the dynamics business, we should get more attention to the BDMs, how security can provide business value to the companies.
Mm-hmm. Thank you for sharing. I would just like to repeat once again that please, who would like to receive this first learnings deck that Andras had prepared, you can go to the right next to the handout section and download it. Milan, then the question would be to you as a partner. Would you agree with the findings that Andras has just presented? Is that something that you see on the market? Are customers still asking these questions about security or worrying about the security in the first place?
Well, we do see a positive dynamic in this direction, meaning that more and more customers are, so to say, educated on security, and they are worried about the security. And we time to time hear on the news that some security breaches happen somewhere in the world. So they tend to ask this kind of questions. And especially when we talk about Dynamics customers, as I said, keeping their the most sensitive data in the cloud is something that obviously they're interested to know how the data is protected there. I'm not totally surprised by the numbers that Andres showed because it's in line what we actually see here in our markets, meaning Eastern European market. So still, many of the customers believe that on-premise is more secure than cloud. This is partly because the business decision makers within the companies are influenced by the IT people in the companies, and these IT people, from our experience, they lean to the on-premise still. So I think there are a lot of reasons, according to my understanding, for that, but still this is the case. And especially when we talk about small and mid-market, and mid-sized companies, where they really don't have that much resources actually to implement comprehensive security strategy. This kind of immaturity, I would say, ends up with this kind of questions and this kind of belief that on-premise is more secure than the cloud. So, yeah.
I also liked what you said once, that the more customers will go to cloud, the more others will tend to follow, as the trust will go up too. So partners have a key influence. Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah.
Marius, you receive questions all across the world regarding security and how to make data security, and regarding in general cloud-related questions. Would you say that the Central Eastern Europe partner questions, the ones that we receive, have some kind of uniqueness behind, or are they more or less similar to what we get from other countries?
Yes, I would say there isn't anything specific for the CEE market. I would say usually there are two reasons why the customers are asking those questions. So first of all, if they are undergoing any IT or IT security related audits, then they provide us with a really huge list of questions. And the second one is when they really want to know and understand things, how the security is managed in the cloud service. But usually those questions indicate that the customer doesn't understand the overall security posture, and they are asking some inconsistent or unrelated questions. So probably that shows that the company doesn't have anyone who really understands the threats and the risks that cloud could bring. And those risks should come from the very high level understanding, not only of the security, but also of the business processes, of the business strategy, business continuity strategy. So in this process, the business decision makers should be involved to set the clear business requirements. I think this complements what Andras presented, the results regarding the growing investments on security. Companies tend to invest more in security when they have a security strategy, and it means that business decision makers are included in the process, and it helps to accelerate that process. So in general, companies should be investing and have information security program or strategy in place. And a good way to start it's to follow any of the information security standards, as for example, ISO 27001. It would help to see the overall picture and correctly identify important risks and to concentrate on most important controls. It's not necessary to go through the certification if the company doesn't see any value in the certificate itself. But when you follow those standards, you will probably be much more accurate in selecting the security controls and understanding the risks what the cloud could bring. So from this perspective, I believe the market still needs to mature for this.
And we need to educate that.
Yes,
Everybody,
exactly.
One-Click Factory, Microsoft partners, we are playing the key role on explaining of what it is that everyone is afraid of and how do we eliminate these fears. And actually, fears is the other topic that I would like to dive deep and discuss. So what are these reasons that customers are afraid of? And again, Andras, I would like to start with you asking, one of the sector that we are asking during the survey was, so what are these reasons that customers are afraid of, and how do they try to protect themselves? Right? Can you elaborate on this more? So, what are mid-sized companies trying to protect most?
Okay, let's do that. I think we can get the slide back to support the story. So
let me ask my colleague to share the slide. Yes, the second slide.
Yes. So meanwhile, the first one is, I would say, no surprise. First one is the biggest fear is still, okay, maybe to the next one. Okay, so if we are taking a look at the bottom of the screen now, the biggest fear that they are concerned is, of course, malware attacks. Yeah, this is most, independently from the size of the customers, this is number one. 2/3 of them are concerned that what would happen if we have received that kind of attack. So that's the number one point. I would say no surprise here. The second one is really getting interesting. It's about secure remote working. And this one hasn't been in the top three like 2 or 3 years ago. But it has really jumped up in the last year due to the situation with COVID. And it turned out that yes, companies had to move. A big part of them had to move to remote working, and about the security of that remote work has jumped up to the second place. So they are able to provide, most of the companies are able to provide remote working opportunities for their employees, but the security of that remote works is already a big question, and this is number two. And on the number three is about real-time monitoring. So when really IT doesn't want to lag behind the attackers and get the information about a security breach after the real problem has already spread across the whole company, but they want to see immediately when an attack is just starting up. I would say it's a big opportunity to talk about solutions like Azure and Azure Protection, also Office or Dynamics security capabilities to have, a real, almost real-time opportunity to monitor on what is going on with my company, applications, company data. Do I have any breach or malware attack that is happening from the outside, but also from the inside, from employees? So that's number three. And number four, obviously, it's also super relevant for the Dynamics customers and partners, accessing, because they are concerned and about their own employees. So attacks are, not coming just from the external market, but also from the internal market, which is basically employees. They are also deeply concerned, and how company can and should manage access to company applications and data. That's a top concerning point.
And all these points actually could be seen as opportunities for partners, at least what I see, because Microsoft has a story around each of them, how this fear could be eliminated, how the data could be protected, what are the procedures to secure, and so on. So partners just should take this data that you have already, talk openly with their customers, and help them understand how can they play around and how can they eliminate the risk that they see. Right?
Yes, and absolutely. It's Microsoft has a good solutions for these challenges. And one point I would highlight is that Milan was mentioning that customers are not aware and do not care. The smaller the customer, the less it cares about security. And the way I would emphasize, the way I would talk about security to those customers who has concerns is talk about the built-in capabilities, the built-in security capabilities of the applications or the platforms in Azure, in Dynamics, in Office 365, which are built in. And the customer doesn't really have to do extra steps to just start using those security measures because they are built into the product, and the product or the services already provides a kind of a security level to protect against external and internal threats. So, talking about a built-in security, that's a way that those challenges that Milan addressed can be answered.
Yeah, that's true. Milan, what is your view? So what are these concerns that your customers have, especially customers from Central Eastern Europe?
In this case, I wouldn't say that they're unique to Central Eastern Europe, but for all the customers, they are primarily concerned with the data security. So the questions that we are getting are, how do you ensure that our data are not accessed even by Microsoft themselves, by third parties? I know that these kind of questions might sound a bit strange, but these are questions that we are still getting actually from the customers. And in this case, what we do, we of course using Microsoft resources to convince the customers to prove that everything is according to the highest standards, and also giving the customers examples that like companies like Coca-Cola, like Daimler, like some banks are using the public cloud of Microsoft, and not only Microsoft, by the way. So believing that if these customers with the high standards, with the intellectual property they have, they want to protect, they trust the cloud, this shouldn't be a problem for smaller companies. Okay, that was our logic, right? Using this kind of proof. Also, one thing that I believe my colleagues on the panel and probably the audience will agree that at least among our customers, maybe very few can afford to have such high level of security. They don't have the resources, majority of them. They don't have the people. They don't have the money, if you want. They don't have the time in order to reach the level of security that Microsoft is actually building in the platform and in the applications. It's simply not possible to spend that much money. So that's why the beauty of the cloud that we're talking about is that everything actually is included, as Anders said. So for us as a partners, we can focus mainly on what we do best, and this is the business applications. And also for the customer, they don't need to invest in additional people, additional software, or additional hardware to reach that level of security they want.
Yes, and I remember when we had the conversation, you mentioned too that factor that the majority of partners they don't have security people, so they are very comfortable on having conversations about ERP, on how beneficial that would be, what business problems do they solve. But security topics is something a bit out of range of competence of partners, and that's where One Click Factory as additional help to partners might come, not only by providing help and tools, but also some kind of pre-sale support, trying to figure out on how do you move forward, how do you assure that your solutions is safe, what arguments do you use to do that, and so. And by the way, we have developed one tool for partners to download as well. The tool is focused on most popular myths of security in cloud and how can they be overcome. Because we believe that for every salesperson, for every partner to be comfortable of having these security-based conversations, you need to know what questions might fall and what answers should you prepare. So the ones who are interested in, you can download again it from handouts session, right? Section right in this session. And I will send a link in my follow-up email too. But these are very good insights that you shared, Milan, too. Thank you. Marius, what are questions and concerns that you are receiving that we at One Click Factory are getting regarding companies moving their ERP solutions to cloud?
So obviously there are many different questions and concerns, but I would maybe emphasize one group which is related to governmental regulations, and one of those is GDPR. So some customers are worried about their data leaving, for example, their country because of GDPR or some other local regulations. But when we start talking to those partners and ask some questions, it usually appears that customers misunderstand the actual requirements. For example, in majority cases, when they ask whether the data will leave their country, we know that it is actually data leaving the European Union that needs to be under the concern. And we had one customer worrying his data leaving the European Union, that it will break the compliance to the GDPR. And it was only a discussion with the customer needed to explain that the GDPR allows the data to leave the European Union if the proper controls, which are not weaker than the GDPR requires, are assured in another country and another country's data center. Having Microsoft as a data center provider, we can easily assure all these compliance to the regulations, since their data centers have all the necessary certifications, and they are compliant to the requirements of the GDPR in all the countries that they have their data centers. So my experience shows that customers do have various concerns and fears that might not always be valid, and you only need to help them to get to that point where they realize that it's everything all right.
So again, we're back to this where we started. Education is the key, and partners being able to have these conversations and clarify the real concerns that customers have, and then guide them on what is in the requirements and what is not in the requirements, and how secure it is. This is one of the important topics for partners to have in mind. And we are here to help solve these questions too. Okay, and now one of the other tricky parts too. Well, Marius claimed already that he believes strongly that cloud is a much safer way than on-premise. And yet, every time something happens, and there are stories happening, they are being very escalating around them. So what are your views on incidents that happen? How can partners and customers prevent them? And what strategies and policies should be in place to make sure that the incidents do not happen? Andras, maybe I will start again with you. What is your view into the incidents and how Microsoft is, what measures Microsoft is putting to prevent them?
Okay. One of the key highlight I would like to mention is that security threats are global. Yeah, security threats are not coming from the company next door with the same skill sets as we do as customers might have. We tend to see from our quite a wide range of experiences around security and cloud security is that attackers are extremely well trained. And they have the best knowledge, up-to-date knowledge. They are even setting the standards for security breaches, and they are developing new technologies every single day. And companies who want to protect themselves locally, in-house, on-premise, with local in-house experience, I mean, they will probably have lots of challenges. They risk themselves that they will not be able to keep up with the development, with the new knowledge, the new technologies attackers tend to have. And this is where, it's also, attacks are global, threat is global, so the protection, that's what we say, should also come from the global experiences. And if you can just share the deck again for a moment, the second slide.
Just a second, Davile, can
No,
you share?
we do that. I can talk meanwhile. So,
no problem, we will share that.
Absolutely. So it's also a question of how much do customers trust today on-premise solutions versus cloud solutions? Okay, and let's go to slide 2. And what we tend to see, maybe the numbers are a bit small, but we are now in the top part of the deck. It seems that it looks like that technology, on-prem technology, treated by 46% of the customers as the most secure. So 46 on-prem is the most secure. The security solutions from the cloud, 41% says that that is the most secure. We might say that, yes, threats are global, and we should tell the customer that they should protect themselves through global experiences and global knowledge, which might come from maybe Microsoft as well. Yeah, we are just lagging a few percentage points behind. It's 41 versus 46. The good news is that 2 or 3 years ago, the trust from cloud solutions, the trust for cloud solutions was like 20%. So in the last 2 years, it has increased really dramatically. Yeah, the trust towards cloud security solutions, and that's our hope. It will go on. Also, we are almost on par with the on-prem solution. Still a lot of work to do, but giving that's one single point is that threats are global. You should protect yourself with global experiences. That is likely to resonate.
And I think more and more customers are realizing it now, based on the survey that you conducted too, that if you want to go with the highest security, you should choose global vendors, the ones that have the power. Just like Milan said, there's no way that a single partner or company could have the same power as Microsoft, for example, to invest and protect the data. Milan, what is your view?
Well, I share, I believe this is not a surprise, that cloud is more secure than on-prem. What I would advise customers is to actually select and work with a partner who can advise them on the security issues and advise them on the security policies that they need to have regardless of the size they are. I mean, small, mid-sized company, they need to be secure in the cloud. And they need to learn how to use all security measures, tools, applications that are available for them to use. And for that one, they need to find the right partner. So that would be my advice.
Yes, it's because I think Marius will talk more about that, but making sure that all parties understand the relationship and understand how everything should set up is extremely important. So partner is one of the elements that customer should be choosing wisely. Yeah, I do agree with that. Marius, so what is your view? You are expert on security. How can we assure that these incidents do not happen? Do you believe that they can not happen?
No, sorry, but I cannot believe this. But I would like to look at all the situation through the cyber criminals perspective, because they don't care if you are on the cloud or on-prem. So the main message is that incidents do happen in both environments. In both cases, you have to have very sound controls to avoid those serious incidents. And from the customer perspective, what is important in this situation is that if something happened to my data from the cloud provider, what could I expect? So first of all, I need to be informed as soon as possible, right? The next thing is that the incident should be mitigated as soon as possible. Then the service should be recovered as soon as possible. And the necessary conclusions should be made to avoid similar issues in the future. And all those things can be assured when the cloud provider has very clear incident management procedures, the disaster recovery plans, and when they transparently communicate those situations to the customer. Those people who are in the cybersecurity world, they know very well that if the company claims that they haven't had any security incidents, usually it indicates that they don't have a security management procedures in place, or they don't know what the security incident is, and maybe they don't know what is happening in their environment at all. It is not the incident itself that one should be afraid of, but the inability to identify it and to mitigate it. So, yeah, security incidents do happen, but what is important to identify it, to mitigate, and learn from them. So if you have strong security controls and you are following those incident management procedures, then you will probably be dealing only with very low impact incidents. So what customers can do about this? So first of all, I think it would be good to evaluate if we are comparing the on-prem solution with the cloud. So first of all, the customer should evaluate how they are covering this topic on their on-prem environment. What tools, what controls do they have to detect the incidents? What people do they have to manage this situation? Do they have procedures? And will someone know what to do if something serious happens? Because those really critical incidents are very difficult situations for all the company, including the top-level management. So when you decide to move to cloud, be sure to check if the cloud provider has incident management procedures and disaster recovery plans. In this case, the security certification really help a lot. All the security standards include incident management and business continuity as very important part of overall security framework. So if the cloud provider holds any certification, for example, ISO 27001 in our case, it is really a good indication that they look serious to the incident management and all the security overall.
So before making the decision, the recommendation for partners would be to lead customers and provide that, choose the vendors that has policies in place, and certificates are one of the ways to show that you are looking at security very seriously, right? That was one of the reasons, at least,
exactly,
why One-Click Factory went through that, right?
This is, I think that all those security standards certification is very good for the cloud providers to show the customer that they are doing well in the security field.
Okay, thank you. So to summarize of what we have discussed, Andres has showed that the trends overall are very positive. More and more customers are choosing cloud over on-premise. They trust data and so on. But yet we miss this breaking point maybe that we expect to happen soon. In your opinion, what you think should happen for us all to experience a huge bump in trusting the security, the data is secure in cloud, and for customers to trust that they can move the ERP to cloud? Andras, what is your view?
Okay, first point, I think we are already experiencing the boom. So it's not something that will come one day. I think we are just on the uptake on that process. So that is, I would say, probably a good news, good sign. The first one, or the key factor I would consider is talking to BDMs. Talk about the business value that security can bring to the company. And that conversation might lead to building up a security strategy where partners can definitely be involved. And then the execution of that security strategy can realize those benefits. So this is the three: sell the business value to the BDMs, implement greater security strategy, and then implement those actions.
And partners are in a good position here, because when you are selling ERP, most likely you are having this conversation with business decision makers, which is a good way to start security related topics as well, something that was out of the topic previously. Milan, what is your view? What do you think should happen for partners to sell more to sell more and more ERPs and move more and more customers to the cloud?
Well, in terms of security, it's I would say it's too important for every company to be left in the domain of IT only. So I agree. Business decision makers, the owners of the companies needs to be involved in that. They need to ask questions, first of all. The second thing that they need to do is to make sure their IT staff, in-sourced or outsourced, needs to be trained on the latest technology. So I think that's key. What we see is that too many IT people working for our customers are still, kind of protecting the old world, if you want. So they want to own the hardware, the software they're buying. They feel they are in power when they do that, and kind of fear we see in them when they talk about cloud sometimes, because maybe they believe that this is something will take part of their power within the company. So that's something that I think, and that's why I believe business decision makers needs to be involved in the security. They need to discuss that at the highest level. So that's what I think. And this, in addition, with the right partner, with the right support from your side, Inga, from Microsoft side, this should slowly lead to the progress that we are looking for. Inevitably, cloud will be the preferred solution in the future. That there's no question. The question is how fast this is going to happen.
Yes, I do believe so too. Marius, what is your view?
I would say that what customers mainly fear is the unknown. So in One-Click Factory, we try to provide partners with the information that could help eliminate those unknowns and help educate the customers on the procedures they need to take, as well as things they should be evaluating while making the decision to move to cloud. On One-Click Factory self-provisioning cloud platform, we host more than 1,000 customers with more than 20,000 users, and it is constantly growing. Those numbers are growing. So how are we helping our partners to convince their customers to move to cloud? So I would share two examples. First of all, we certified our information security management system with the ISO 27001 certification. As I have already mentioned earlier, it is important for the cloud vendors to have these certifications, because it shows not only that you did something already to be secure, but it also shows that you are constantly improving your security, because you have to overcome the yearly audits. So it really is a good indication that the security is kept very seriously in such a provider. And another thing, what we are doing is trying to explain how the responsibilities for the information security are shared between the parties which are involved in the service. In our case, we have even 4 parties involved in the service. It's Microsoft, which provides the data centers. It's One-Click Factory, which do all the necessary configurations. Then it's Dynamics Partner and the end customer as well. So each of these parties have a certain range of responsibilities. And it is important that all the parties understand their responsibilities from the very beginning of starting using the service. So to conclude, I would say that we want to change the situation in CEE. If we want to change that situation, we should be investing strongly in educating the market, and in such a way breaking those myths about security in the cloud.
I think it's a very good conclusion. And let me just check if we have questions. Okay. Published. Okay, we do have some questions. Do you have any examples of customer situations when it's better on-prem? So, okay, let's start with Andres, and but you all can share the opinion. To Andres, do you think there ever are situations where you would say that on-prem solution is better?
Well, it's challenging. That's a very good question. On-prem is better. There might be situation. The thing that comes to my mind is those industries where regulation is still very strong. And like public sector in many countries, it's a highly regulated from a data storage perspective, or maybe the pharma industry is also quite regulated. Including FSI might be also partly regulated. So I wouldn't say that there are certain situations where on-prem is always better. I would approach this question on how customers in certain industries are allowed to move to the cloud. And even there are good signs. So even in FSI, there are regulations. Yeah, it's a regulated industry. Still, in the European Union, it is possible to move certain business processes in the FSI segment to the cloud. Public sector, which tend to say, oh, no cloud adoption can happen. It's still the opposite. Even in Hungary, we have a great example of an ERP about a customer using ERP in the cloud. It's a public sector, it's a company. Yes, it's not a public sector entity, it's a public sector company, but still they were able to move their ERP business, the ERP application to the cloud. So I think the biggest challenge is always that, okay, if the customer says, no, I'm not allowed, on cloud is always more secure, that's a perception in some of the cases, or maybe most of the cases. So overcoming that perception battle, that's from my perspective, that's the key point.
Milan, what is your view? Are there scenarios that you would recommend your customer to go on premise?
Well, if we put aside the scenarios where due to the regulations you need to have your data within the country, meaning on some local data center or servers located in the countries, it's hard for me to imagine a situation where on-premise is better. Maybe in some scenarios where the network latency should be really, really low, right? So I don't know what kind of scenarios this could be. Maybe Marius, from a technical point of view, can tell us. But at least for our business, for our domain, which is Dynamics, ERP, CRM, BI, I cannot really imagine a situation where on-prem is definitely the better solution.
Marius, what is your opinion? And here we are talking, in general, cloud, probably not on premise, on Azure like we have, because it's still cloud, the solution that OneClick Factory has.
I can only agree to what Andres and Milan said. I think that the main reason is some certain regulations for some business areas when they cannot move to cloud. I actually cannot think about any other situations when it's better to be on-prem. I think that sometimes the customers are not moving to cloud because they already invested much money into their infrastructure. They bought some servers or anything like that. So, but we have to understand that the life cycle of the hardware is like 2 or 3 years. So it's very short time period. So you can always think about moving to cloud, because there are also hybrid solutions when part of the infrastructure is on cloud and part on-prem. So even if you have already some hardware, you shouldn't stick to that and don't plan to invest again in the hardware. It's really better if you are not regulated very strictly and you can move to cloud. I would encourage to do this.
And I have another, thank you, Vidmantas, for a very good question. And then I have Tarmo asking, won't there be any latency issues regarding to, let's say, printing when moving to cloud solution? So Marius, maybe you can share your experience. We have quite many customers running in cloud already. Are they experiencing latency issues?
No, it's not a common issue as far as I know. So it's I think as Milan said, maybe there could be some processes where the latency is really critical, but from the customers which we have on our platform, it's really not an issue to have any latency related problems.
Milan, would you support that? Is that something that you hear from your customers, that they would be experiencing latency issues?
Well, that in general, I believe we will all agree that the network infrastructure in our countries here is improving, and it's good. I mean, I would say good enough for all the applications that we are running with our customers. So even in some countries that we were having some doubt that maybe the infrastructure will not be good enough, we were surprised to see that even there everything works fine in terms of latency, and the customers are pretty happy with the speed of the solutions that we implemented. So I really do not see that as an obstacle, the latency specifically. Okay, if you have, for instance, some specific scenarios where you have, mobile workers that need to go somewhere in locations that there is no network coverage. I mean, that's a different thing. I mean, like field sales scenario, but this is not very, very common.
And I think, well, Milan, maybe you could add to your answer. Tarmo would like to clarify, how easy would it be to implement an external BI solution to a cloud-based ERP solution?
How easy? It's very easy, to be honest. I mean, I'm not a technical person that will explain in details, but we do a lot of BI solutions, BI implementations, and we do both. We use Power BI, of course. There's no I guess, surprise. And we connect them with on-premise environment, with cloud environment. So we haven't had any problems.
So Tarmo, if you would like, we can connect you either with partners, or we can help you understand from our side of what options are there and how easy it's not. But now our time has come to an end, and I really would like to thank all panelists, Andras, Milan, Marius, for sharing your expertise. I hope that we eliminated at least a little bit of concerns partners or customers are having, and provided some tools and guidelines of what where partners should move and what arguments should use while having the discussions with their customers. And thank you, of course, dear partners, for joining. I hope that was valuable for you as well. I would invite you to join our next session that will be in the middle of February, and will be focused on pandemic, on how do we help our customers recover from pandemic. This is the topic that we should take and discuss now, even the pandemic is not over already. Thank you again for joining. Wish you a good day.
Thank you, Inga.
Thank you.